Christmas.
The thing about Christmas that I think is special is being with my family.
Those were fantastic, and we have lots more fantastic little videos to come. Welcome to Oak City Church and our Christmas at home. We're so glad that you've chosen to join us tonight. As much as we would love to be in the same room tonight, it's been fantastic just to see these videos, and I'm so encouraged to see people and for you to let us into your living room. And we're glad you've let us into your home, and I'm happy to let you into to our home for the night. So thanks for joining us. If you sent in those videos, thank you so much for doing that. If you didn't get a chance to send one in, don't worry about it, because we got more than we can probably use. And so if we don't use your video, we're really, really sorry, but we're really, really grateful that you sent it in. Tonight, Christmas Eve, is one of my favorite nights of the year because it's quiet and it's thoughtful and it's family, whether that be your church family or your family or your friend's family. It's the people that are closest to you, and it's celebrating this monumental thing that the King of Heaven came to earth. And so my hope and prayer for you tonight is that you do get a chance to relax, to really contemplate and just wonder about what God has done for us and what this night represents for us. And that as we sing these songs, you would belt them out, like not just with your soul, but with your mouth. Turn up the volume on your TV. That's what I do, so people don't have to hear me sing out of tune, and I can sing as loud as I want to, and sing to Jesus because he's been good to us. So thanks for being here. Merry Christmas, and here we go.
Fields and flowers.
Hey Oak City, tonight I'll be reading to you from Isaiah chapter 9, verses 2 through 7. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who dwelt in a land of deep darkness, on them has light shone. You have multiplied the nation, you have increased its joy. They rejoice before you as with joy at the harvest, as they are glad when they divide the spoils. For the yoke of his burden and the staff for his shoulder, the rod of his oppressor, you have broken as on the day of Midian. For every boot of the tramping warrior in battle tumult, and every garment rolled in blood will be burned as fuel for the fire. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and of peace there will be no end on the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and to uphold it with justice and with righteousness from this time forth and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this.
Will you sing a song with us? Will, you want to start it?
Mm-hmm.
All right, go for it.
Away in the manger, no crib for a bed, the little Lord Jesus laid down his sweet head. The stars in the sky looked down where he lay. The little Lord Jesus lay asleep on the hay. The cattle are lowing, the baby awakes. The little Lord Jesus no crying he makes. I love thee, Lord Jesus, look down from the sky and stay by my cradle till morning is night. Be near me, Lord Jesus, I ask thee to stay close by me forever and love me, I pray. Bless all the dear children in the tender care, and take us to heaven to live with thee there.
Merry Christmas!
I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carols play, and wild and sweet the words repeat of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And though how as the day had come, the belfries of all Christendom had rolled along the unbroken song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Till ringing, singing on its way, the world revolved from night to day, a voice, a chime, a chant sublime of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And in despair I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said, for hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then pealed the bells more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men. From Shannon, Ben, and I, Merry Christmas, everyone.
The stars are brightly shining. It is the night of our dear shall he break, for the slave is our brother, and in his name all oppression shall cease. Sweet hymns of joy in grateful chorus raise we, let all within us praise his holy name. Christ is the Lord. Oh, praise his name forever. His power and glory evermore proclaim. His power and glory evermore proclaim. On your knees, oh, hear the angel voices, oh, night divine, oh, night when Christ was born. Oh, night divine, oh, night divine.
And in the same region there were shepherds out in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And an angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were filled with great fear. And the angel said to them, "Fear not, for behold, I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all the people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, who is Christ the Lord. And this will be a sign for you. You will find a baby wrapped in swaddling cloths and lying in a manger." And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God and saying,
Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace among those with whom he is pleased.
And when the angels went away from them into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let us go over to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has made known to us." And they went with haste and found Mary and Joseph, and the baby lying in a manger. And when they saw it, they made known the saying that had been told them concerning this child. And all who heard it wondered at what the shepherds told them. But Mary treasured up all these things, pondering them in her heart. And the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all they had heard and seen, as it had been told them.
Thank you to Leanne and to Rebecca and to Kevin for doing those readings. You guys did great. I picked Kevin for that reading because it's a poem by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, and I dare you look up Longfellow and you're going to see what Kevin's going to look like in 30 or 40 years. So typecasting right there. Probably sounded like him too. The last few weeks of our Advent series coming into Christmas, I've talked about how Jesus gives us reason to hope, and Jesus gives us reason to wonder, and Jesus gives us reason to to rest. And now on Christmas Eve, I want to talk about how Jesus gives us reason to rejoice. And to do that, I want to talk about the shepherds. The shepherds are some of my favorite characters in the story, in part because we get so used to the shepherds. We see them in Christmas plays, and we just think those guys are, good guys, that we lose sight of just how crazy it is that they were the first ones to get the news that Jesus had arrived on earth. And here's what I want to say, just in these few minutes. I'm going to say one thing, that the fear of the Lord comes before the joy of the Lord. If you want the joy of the Lord, you've got to have the fear of the Lord first. And the shepherds had that. So in the same region, there were shepherds out in the field, keeping watch over their flocks by night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them. And they were filled with fear. They were filled with fear. I am really bad at social media. There are a lot of times I feel guilty about like that. For the church, to do better, maybe I would have to be better at social media. And it's probably because I do this for a living, and so I practice these messages looking at myself in the mirror in my bathroom, because I know like what happens when you use your hands and your facial expressions and your tone and all that stuff really, really matters. And so when you just type it out and you put it out there on Facebook or Twitter or wherever, it's hard. Like people read the worst tone into something, and so I'm concerned about how something comes across, and I just don't want to take the time to do it. But we're experts with social media. We're experts at building a platform, at creating momentum, at maximizing the impact of our message. The shepherds, if you consider all the options that God had to announce that he had come from heaven to earth, the shepherds are like a Friday afternoon news dump. I understand that if you're in PR and you want to bury a piece of information, you put out a press release at 3 or 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon, because people have checked out, if not physically, at least mentally, and no one's wanting to pay attention to anything anymore. And that's what the shepherds seem like. You would expect that God would bring this to religious leaders, maybe the Pharisees, political leaders, maybe even Herod would have a kid that would be the son of God, The wise men that came, they were pseudo-political leaders, and so they were a decent option. The shepherds, man, in their day, they're kind of the dregs of society. We think they're quaint. The rabbis in their day said that they were dishonest and prone to violating the Jewish law. One passage says, you don't have to bother helping a shepherd out of a pit if he's falling into it, because he's not worth it. An historian talked about how they were deprived of civil rights. They couldn't fill a judicial office. Their testimony couldn't be admitted in court. And I don't know what category we have for that, other than somebody that's done hard time, or maybe the stereotype of a migrant worker. That's where they fit. That guy wrote to buy milk, wool, or a goat from a shepherd was forbidden on the assumption that it would be stolen property. In Jerusalem, in the time of Jesus, there was a guy that wrote, the rabbis asked with amazement, in view of the despicable view of shepherds, how God could describe himself as our shepherd in Psalm 23. It just didn't, those two things didn't go together for them. These guys aren't connected. They don't have any authority. They're not going to do a good job of getting this message out. They're not repping anybody in the side of their shepherd staff or painting stuff in the side of the sheep, because nobody listens to the shepherd. Nobody pays attention to them. But they are the ones that God chose. God chose the shepherd. I think they needed to be on the margins of society like that to understand just how good the good news was. They were humble enough and self-aware enough and maybe beat down enough to understand just how much they needed the gospel. In Corinthians, Paul writes about how God chooses the foolish in the world to shame the wise, and the weak in the world to shame the strong. And the shepherds are an example of that. And they feared the Lord. They feared the Lord. They saw these angels, they heard the message, and they were filled with fear. Christmas it's not often associated with fear. A little baby doesn't create fear in you, but this baby should bring just a little bit of fear in you. This is the one through whom and by whom and for whom all things were created. And so there should be some trepidation with it. The coming of the Lord in the Old Testament was a day of judgment when all things will be set right. And when I read the prophets in the Old Testament, I don't know about you, but for me, I think, man, those guys could be talking about me. I mean, even after 30 years of walking with the Lord, I'm pretty disappointed about some things that are in my heart and wishing that a whole lot more progress had been made. And so there is a healthy fear of the Lord that we should have. And these guys had it. They didn't see themselves as entitled. And when you don't see yourself as entitled, man, that opens you up for joy. And that's what Christmas is about. God chose us, and we didn't deserve it. These guys were so far on the fringes, everything had passed them by, the opportunities were gone, that they were able to grasp the opportunity that was in front of them with the Christ, and others didn't, and it led to joy. After they visit with Mary and Joseph, it says all who heard it wondered at what the shepherds told them. Mary treasured these things up, pondering them in their heart, and the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all that they had seen and all that they had heard as it had been told to them. You look at who wasn't happy about Jesus' arrival, and it was people who thought they had a whole lot to lose. King Herod wasn't happy about Jesus' arrival because Jesus was a threat. The self-righteous religious leaders weren't excited about Jesus' arrival or his eventual message because they thought they had it right and he had it wrong. We risk being an entitled people. There is a part of us that really loves to complain every time we feel slighted, and that part of us is something to beware of, because that part of us is going to have a really hard time experiencing the joy of the Lord because there's not a healthy fear of the Lord. Often we're more like the Pharisees than we are like the shepherds. You look at the people in these scenes who were happy. It's Zachariah and Elizabeth, John the Baptist's parents. And they were happy. They were in the margins of society because for so long they were unable to have a child, and that puts you on the margins of that society. So they were overjoyed at this news. Simeon and Anna, the people that had waited in the temple for the arrival of the Messiah, and they had just foregone whatever the world had to offer, believing that God had something better to offer, and no matter what it cost them, it was worth waiting for. And so when their wait was over, they were filled with joy. Mary was filled with joy. She pondered these things up in her heart, and it said her soul magnified the Lord. It made God bigger and filled her soul with joy. Jesus says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And that's the type of people that experience the joy of the Lord because they have a fear of the Lord. And that's what you see in these Christmas scenes. God brings dignity to the undignified, and so they have joy. Something happened this week that related to this for me, and hopefully you can get this. I grew up in Milwaukee. Milwaukee is a Rust Belt city in the Midwest. I would say our glory days have passed us by, but I'm not really sure we ever actually had glory days in Milwaukee. There's a beer called Pabst Blue Ribbon that was brewed in Milwaukee, and it won a Blue Ribbon like 150 years ago. So, we're milking that for all it's worth. Happy Days was filmed there. Laverne and Shirley was filmed there. That's what we got. And Chicago's right down the street and constantly patting us on the head and reminding us that we're like everybody's little brother. Well, this week there was a basketball player named Giannis Antetokounmpo. He is a two-time NBA MVP, and his contract situation would have allowed him at the end of the season to go anywhere he wanted to. And so he could have gone to play in Los Angeles, he could have gone to play in New York, and he could have gone and play in Chicago, but he didn't. What he did this week is sign this 5-year Supermax contract, and all of Milwaukee rejoiced. And when he signed the contract, he said, this is, where is this here? He says, this is my home, this is my city. And so what he did, and us, our joy at that wasn't that we have Giannis for 5 more years of basketball. It was that someone chose us over Los Angeles and New York and Chicago and gave us dignity because of this. In a way, that's what Christmas is about. God chose us. God chose us. And we did not deserve to be chosen, but he chose us anyway. The fear of the Lord precedes the joy of the Lord. These shepherds are the first one to get the news, but later Jesus goes so far as to say, I am the good shepherd. He totally identifies with these guys and said, these are my boys. I'm with them. He comes to the poor. He comes to the sick and to the lame, the people who don't have a chance to win in this world. He comes to the tax collectors and those who are shunned. He lifts up the humble, and God opposes the proud. And that's the message of Christmas. He's chosen to come to you and to come to me when we didn't deserve it. That's the gospel, and that's Christmas. I saw this letter this week and I loved it. It's a Santa letter from a little girl in England, so she calls him Father Christmas. And this is what she writes. She says, "Dear beloved Father Christmas, I hope you've had a wonderful year and you have been well. My year has been quite the opposite. I've tried hard to be good, but miserably failed. I'll be honest, I do deserve a coal, but please, I'd love to have a present." That is such a great letter. And that's like, there's Christmas in that. I tried really hard. I kind of blew it. If I'm honest, I really deserve a coal, but I would love to have a present. Like, this is someone who understands the heart of the Father, you know. And she goes further than that. She said, "I'd love to have a present. Actually, more than one. Here's a list. Tick the boxes if you have done them." And she asked for AirPods, a game console, a snake, a PS5, a DJ set, a trip to France, and she's in England, an iPhone 12, a mobile laptop. She asked big. I think that's Christmas right there. It's coming to the Father and saying, I know I don't deserve this, but I know you have a huge heart, and nothing shows the huge heart of the Father like Christmas, like coming from heaven to earth. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever should believe in him shouldn't perish, but have everlasting life. And that's Christmas. May the Lord may your heart bring to Christmas Eve enough of the fear of the Lord that it could be filled with the joy of the Lord. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas! And then Kennedy would like to tell us what Christmas means to her. So Kennedy, what does Christmas mean to you?
Christmas means Jesus being born and opening presents with family and friends.
Hail the hand-born Prince of Peace. Hail the Son of Righteousness. Light and life to all he brings. Risen with healing in his wings. Mild he laid his glory by. Born that men no more may die. Born to raise the sons of earth. Born to give them second birth. Hark the herald angels sing. Glory to the newborn King.
Merry Christmas, Oak City! Merry Christmas, Oak City Church!
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas! My favorite part of Christmas is giving. My favorite part of Christmas is celebrating Jesus.
Thank